So, you're facing a big drop or a gap jump or some hairball tech feature. Should you just send it? Let's talk about that. So, I often see posts on social media asking for advice on how to handle a certain tech feature or gap jump or big drop. No harm in that. But, by far the prevailing response comes in some form of, hey, just send it. And the thing is, out of all the advice you can give a writer in that situation, I can't think of anything worse than to say, just do it. I'm reminded of an online post that caught my attention recently. The header was something like, watch my last mountain bike video ever. The poster went on to explain how he crashed doing a jump run and broken his vertebra. A lot of other stuff too, rendering him paraplegic for the rest of his life. Now, your heart goes out to someone like this. I mean, what a tragedy not to be able to ride a mountain bike ever again. But what caught my attention was he said, hey, no regrets. And I thought, really? I mean, if you had to do it all over again, you'd do it all over again? This seems to me to get at the core of extreme sports, which mountain biking can be, although it doesn't have to be. The old saying goes with mountain biking, it's not a matter of if you'll crash, but only when. And, that's certainly true in my experience. The thing about being on a mountain bike, and this is different from road biking, which I did for a couple of decades, is that pushing your limits on a mountain bike means riding increasingly more challenging, dangerous terrain on increasingly more capable bikes. So, yeah, at some point you're going to find your limits, and a good indication is when you wind up crashing. Does it have to be this way? I'm not so sure. Along with testing your limits should come the realization that yes, you do have limits. Most of us are not going to be doing backflips or gap jumps or 20-foot drops. There's a lot of reasons why, but to a certain extent, we have to accept that at some point. The challenge is determining where each of our limits actually ends on any given ride. Young riders today are doing things, were unthinkable when I was starting out mountain biking 30 years ago. They're aided by advances in bike technology and trail construction, of course, but they're also just really, really capable. Being young helps. I know I did some pretty out there things when I was young and could bounce back much more easily from injury. But, hats off to the skill level of a lot of these guys. That said, let's get back to our original paralyzed rider and talk about some of the lessons we might take away from his experience. I watched his video several times, and it struck me that he had clues about what might be coming that either he didn't understand or he pretty much ignored. And I realize I'm an armchair observer here, but right from the start, it seemed to me that although he's done these runs before and he's, perfectly capable rider, something was a little off this time. He's complaining about the surface being more sketchy and loose. And significantly, he's casing some of the jumps, not all of them and not really badly, but he's coming up short. And that, to me, says maybe something was off on this particular day, combined with his uncertainty over the surface. Both of these, to my mind, were his psyche sending him clues. First, maybe he wasn't as sharp as normal. That can happen, of course. We all have good days and bad, even the pros. In fact, parenthetically, the good days are often where I've hurt myself in the past. I get to feeling a little too cocky, a little too overconfident. I go a little too fast. And then the next thing I know, wham, I'm off the bike. It's hard on those really feel-good days to tell myself that disaster may be lurking right around the corner. But in this case, the rider did have clearly identifiable red flags. There was a little guy inside of him telling him, maybe dial it back a bit this day. Maybe you're just not quite on your game. In his defense, it's really hard to listen to those little guys. The typical impulse is just to keep going, push on, power through. Hey, just send it. And that's obviously what he did, to his everlasting regret. Oh, wait, no, he said no regrets. Um, hey, to that point, I've seen in these cases initial denial, and just it's human nature. You know, you can't face the grim reality. Eventually, well, it does sink in, and unfortunately, that's when things get really tough. But anyway, pulling back to the big picture, over the years, I've learned to ask myself a simple question when faced with a particularly challenging feature, and that question is, do I want to ride tomorrow? I found it really useful because as much as my mind screams, just send it, asking that question puts my initial impulse into sharp focus. You know, what if I send it and it comes up short of its destination? I don't want that. Instead, you know, I want to guarantee I'll be able to ride tomorrow. So yeah, I'll get off and walk, or I'll slow down and take it easy, or hey, just turn around, go back the other way, and find another way down. Now, to be sure, I really hate this. I want to send it like everybody with just every fiber of my being, but I also want to be able to ride tomorrow. The other issue to address is just because I'm not sending it today doesn't mean I can't send it tomorrow. Just tell yourself, return to sender. Come on back. You know, the old post office stamp. And this gets back to taking your own temperature while you're riding. If you're on your game and your body tends to tell you that, but if you're just not as sharp as usual, your body tells you that too. Go with your intuition. Pay attention to those signals. I remember riding in Whistler one time, this was quite a while back, on Thrill Me, Kill Me, and at one point there was a steep rock roll where a bunch of Canadians were gathered at the top. You know, back in that day there was a lot of dope smoking associated with mountain biking, and these guys were all toking up. You know, they offered me a hit, and I said, looking straight down this daredevil drop, no, I kind of want to keep all my faculties intact. And they said, hey, we're trying to lose ours. I don't think that's a good idea. I had a friend do a massive face plant while fully baked in NorCal's Annabelle Park. 6 figures in facial reconstruction surgery later, he told me he'd given up doping for good while riding. Now, you can easily crash with all your faculties intact, of course, but what often gets lost in any discussion is whether to tackle a challenging feature being the sensible approach. Why not take lessons? Why not do sessions and practice? A lot of us look at videos of slope stylers doing amazing tricks, and we forget how much pain and effort went into being able to pull those things off. Danny McCaskill, he has a whole video about how many broken bones and other injuries he's suffered over the years. You can stop during any ride and session, a feature, till you get it down, but it's also advisable to take any first-time trail cautiously. Scope out what you're doing before you do that jump or drop or whatever. Make sure you know where you're going. Don't just send it. And then, of course, think about lessons. We're blessed here in the PNW with some of the best teachers. Cat Sweet with their Sweetline School, Simon Lawton, Fluid Ride. These guys are real pioneers in MTB skills instruction. I'll put the links below, but, if you're listening on the podcast, just Google Sweetlines or Fluid Ride. They'll pop right up. So to sum up, crashes are more or less inevitable, but you can avoid the fate of our paralyzed friend by following certain steps, starting with answering that crucial question, do you want to ride tomorrow? Hope this helps, and I'll see you crash-free and riding with a smile out on the trail.